If you've got a pet, you don't need me to tell you all the ways they benefit you. Obviously, they bring you joy and unconditional love. It is so important to know how to keep them safe and healthy. Have you thought about having a first aid kit specific for your pet? It's different than a human first aid kit. Our pet expert to explain. Kelly Gebhardt is a veterinarian at Happy Tails Emergency Vet Clinic, and she's taking your pet questions right now. Just text them to us, 336-379-5775, and we will get right to it. All right, first question that we just alluded to, both an emergency kit and a first aid kit for pets kind of sound similar, but what is the difference here?
Right. So there's a pretty big difference. And just like with people, we want to have an emergency kit for times of, say, natural disasters. And in the emergency kit, that includes a first aid kit. And we'll talk about each of them individually. But with an emergency kit, you want to be thinking either long-term stay in place, like shelter in place, so something more substantial, or a lightweight, smaller emergency kit if you have to evacuate. And in those, with the emergency kit, we want to be thinking about pet food, water, pet first aid kit, extra leashes and harnesses. If you have a small dog or cat, you want to have a carrier ready for them. Other things are grooming items. So say there's a flood or they just get really dirty. You want to make sure you have a store of shampoo and conditioner, nail trimmers, maybe some quick stop in case their nails get a little too short, paper towels and disinfectant to clean after accidents, those types of things for grooming, and also plastic bags to clean up from like poop or vomit or types of spills that might happen in the area where you are sheltering in place. Another thing is you want to have a printed picture of you and your pet in the emergency kit because we can't be depending on electronic devices at that time. And if you get separated from your pet, that would be the only way that they can identify, yes, this is your pet. So that's important. Trying to keep a current copy of your vaccine records and your veterinary records in that emergency kit is also important as proof of up-to-date vaccines. That's important. And familiar items that will help bring your pet comfort in times of stress. So favorite toys, favorite treats, favorite blankie, something like that. And all of these items should be stored in a waterproof, sturdy container. And more of these helpful tips can be found at ready.gov/pets. Ready.gov/pets. It has a whole list of really helpful tips for emergency kits for times of natural disasters like that. But first aid kits.
Sorry, I was going to say it's funny that you suggest putting a picture in there. I think a lot of people probably wouldn't consider that.
Right. And I think it's a great idea because that's the only way you can actually prove your relationship with them. Say the power goes down, cell phones go down. We don't have pictures on our cell phone available to say this is my dog. So having a picture is really important to prove that relationship, right?
A lot of people have medications that their dogs take regularly, dogs or cats, and obviously there's a wide variety. What's the best way to store these types of medications in an emergency kit like this?
Oh, that's a great point. I actually forgot to mention it, so I'm so glad you brought it up. If your pet is on medications regularly, making sure that they are stored in a watertight container, maybe a pill container inside a Ziploc bag, a very sturdy watertight container with a list, a label or prescription label of exactly what that medicine is. And keeping a little backup store of that in your emergency kit's important, or a ready-to-go bag that if you do know an emergency is coming, put that ready-to-go bag in your emergency kit because those daily medications, whether heart medications, seizure medications, anti-anxiety meds, all of those are really important to have with you and easy to forget when you're in a crisis, right? So having those ready to go is critical.
Are there any concerns with somebody who says, well, what if I can just put my pet's emergency kit with my emergency kit? Is there any, I mean, would you suggest against that or no?
I think keeping them together but separate is really important because their pet needs are going to be a little bit different than our needs, but having them next to each other, labeled appropriately, pet emergency kit, personal emergency kit, I think that's important. Having them ready to go and fully stocked and checking them regularly to make sure that the products are not expired or out of date. Like every 6 months to a year, you check and just take a peek and see if everything is fresh and ready to go. But you know, you're going to have food for you and yours and food for your dog and the other. So you kind of want to keep them a little bit separate.
Every time you change your smoke detector batteries, maybe also check the expiration dates on your medications.
I think that's a perfect idea. Yep.
Now, where would you suggest keeping this emergency kit?
I think it all depends on your home environment. A cool, dry place is very important. I think something like a garage that isn't thermoregulated, things could go bad faster and be easier for critters to get in. So whatever is good for your home, easy access, maybe a closet or under a bed, something where you know it's going to be quick, easy access, whatever works for your home environment. But I would probably keep it out of a garage that's not temperature controlled.
And you know, we talked a little bit about how there will likely be some paper products in there. Do you suggest laminating these types of things or not?
I think that's a perfect idea. Laminating them is going to be most water safe. Otherwise, put them in a Ziploc bag and make sure it's well sealed. But lamination is really going to keep the water away from them. So that's a really good idea.
And if you have kids, do you think it's important to make sure the kids are aware of this, or is this something kind of just the adults can handle?
Oh, I think it's really for everyone in the house to know where the emergency items are, especially, once the kids get to an age-appropriate age where they can understand what things are. I think it's very important, and also to practice those emergency evacuation plans. I think those are all really good ideas.
Is there anything that you would suggest not putting in an emergency kit?
Um, the one I don't recommend is hydrogen peroxide personally. That's really the only thing that I can think of, because people will use hydrogen peroxide in wounds, which can actually cause some cell damage. And in cases of sometimes vomiting, it's often used to induce vomiting. And I personally have seen too many negative side effects from using hydrogen peroxide for vomiting. Poison control often recommend inducing vomiting at home with hydrogen peroxide, but I have seen intractable vomiting and gastritis, like ulceration of the esophagus and stomach, from hydrogen peroxide. And in life-threatening situations, say if your dog has ingested a heart medication and you are 2 hours away from a veterinarian, getting that heart medication up by using hydrogen peroxide, the positives of getting that medication up outweigh the negatives of what hydrogen peroxide is going to do to the esophagus and stomach. But if you are 10 minutes from a vet and your dog just ingested a heart medication, for instance, the best thing to do is get to a veterinarian where they can give a medication that will induce vomiting in a controlled way. Then they can stop the symptoms and you don't have those negative side effects of hydrogen peroxide. So that's one thing I don't love, but there aren't other things that I can really think of right off the top of my head not to include.
Okay, perfect. And we're going to take a quick commercial break, and if she has anything else, so we will make sure to share that after. Dr. Kelly Gebhardt is here with us, and we will be right back.